Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, good day all. You are all welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to look at introduction to biochemistry, and as you can see clearly, the PowerPoint is made by Shivani, by Mrs. Shivani Vyas, Assistant Professor. So in this video, we are going to look at the concept of biochemistry. So what is biochemistry? The study of structure, composition, and the chemical reactions of molecules in living system. So biochemistry is just trying to talk about, or it's trying to talk about the structure, the composition, and the chemical reactions of biomolecules that are taking place in the living system. And of course, in living organisms, there are thousands of molecules. So understanding the structure, the composition, and the chemical reactions of that molecules in a living organisms, in a living system, is what we call biochemistry. Like for example, in living organisms, we have glucose. So glucose is a molecule. So knowing the structure of glucose, knowing the composition of the glucose, and the chemical reactions of the glucose within the living system is what we call biochemistry. But it doesn't only concern with glucose, it's talking about the entire molecules that are found in living organisms. So to know their structure, to know the composition, as well as the chemical reactions of all those biomolecules in a living system is what we call biochemistry. So as you can see here, we have biology here, and we have chemistry, and we have biochemistry here. But strictly speaking, biochemistry is just not an addition of biology and chemistry, but you are using application of chemistry in living organisms. So the application of living organisms, the application of biochemistry in living organisms is what we call biochemistry. So if you are using living organisms to understand their biochemical reactions, or to understand the structure and the composition, as well as the reactions of the compound in living organisms, so you are studying biochemistry. But biochemistry is not just about chemistry plus biology, no. But you are using the application of chemistry to understand humans, or to understand living system. So that is biochemistry. So you are trying to use the application of chemistry. And what are the application of chemistry? The application of chemistry comprises of structure, composition, and the chemical reactions, so if of molecules. So, but if you are applying the structure, the composition, and the chemical reactions of biomolecules in living organisms, so that is biochemistry. So you are applying you are applying chemistry in studying life. So that is why biochemistry is one of the branches of chemistry. It's one of the branches of chemistry. So now, quickly now, we are going to look at these are some branches of biochemistry. We have developmental biology, genetics, biological sciences. Although biochemistry, this is not actually, really speaking, this is not exactly branches of biochemistry, but it's just trying to show how biochemistry connect with other life sciences. So biochemistry is integrated with a lot of science subjects. It's integrated with a lot of sciences, and this include chemistry, structural biology, microbiology and immunology, pathology, neurobiology, molecular pharmacology, molecular and cellular physiology, developmental biology, genetics, and biological sciences. They are all integrated with biochemistry. So it means that in fact, if you doesn't have a good understanding of biochemistry, it will be very, very difficult for you to understand all these related areas. If no biochemistry, there will not be full understanding of genetics, developmental biology, molecular and cellular physiology. So biochemistry is a very, very relevant course of study that integrated with a lot of sciences. So that is why if you lack knowledge of biochemistry, you really lack the knowledge of any course in life sciences, because biochemistry is actually trying to give you an understanding of the biological processes by understanding the reactions within the biomolecules. Because of course, physiology is the study of functions of the living system, but biochemistry is like the language of physiology, because proteins is what determine the functions of a particular cell or the functions of a particular tissue. But biochemistry is trying to understand the basics, the biomolecules that leads to the functions of the cells, because the functions of the cells is due to proteins, and proteins is a biomolecules. And in biochemistry, you are studying the structure, the composition, as well as the reactions of the protein molecules. So that is where understanding biochemistry will give you an idea, or will give you a basic understanding of how life processes are taking place. So that is why if you lack knowledge of biochemistry, it will be very, very difficult to be a good doctor, to be a good nurse, to be a good pharmacist, to be a good biologist, to be, in fact, biochemistry is central, is very, very central, is related with a lot of life sciences. I don't think there is any course in life of medical sciences that doesn't require biochemistry, because biochemistry is life from molecular level. And if you didn't understand life at molecular level, you don't understand life. So biochemistry is very, very important and central. Pathology, neurobiology, microbiology, structural biology, genetics, molecular pharmacology, medicine, and many more, they are all integrated. And of course, we also have branches of biochemistry. And these branches of biochemistry include something like enzymology, biotechnology, nutrition. We have so many of them. We have so many. We have medical biochemistry. We have industrial biochemistry. We have environmental biochemistry. So we have so many of them. All these are the branches of biochemistry. So we have so many of them. In fact, we even have carbohydrate biochemistry. We have so many of them. So the term biochemistry originated from combining both bios, meaning life, and chemistry. But as I said, biochemistry is actually the application of chemistry in living system. So biochemistry is defined as a branch of sciences that deals with the study of reactions which are taking place inside a living organisms. So in biochemistry, we are trying to understand all the reactions that are taking place in a living organisms. And the word was first coined by German chemist Carl Neuberg. Carl Neuberg is the scientist that coined the word biochemistry in the year 1903, and it emerged as a distinct discipline around the beginning of the 20th century, where scientists combined chemistry and biology to investigate the chemistry of living systems by one studying the structure and the behavior of the complex molecules found in biological material, the ways these molecules interact to form cells, tissues, and the whole organisms. So this is how biochemistry is actually coined and how the era of biochemistry began. It began with studying the structure and the behavior of complex molecules and the behavior of complex molecules. Of course, we are going to look at the molecules as we continue with the lecture. And also, this scientist was also able to see how these molecules, how these complex molecules interact from the cells, tissues, and the whole organisms. And of course, at the level of organization of life, it started from atom, and the main atom of life is carbon. So the main atom of life is carbon, cause hydrogen polarides. We also have oxygen. We also have sulfur. We also have nitrogen. And of course, it's the smaller molecules that integrate themselves to produce what you call small molecules. Small molecules produce a small molecule. And these small molecules generated from these atoms will form what we call monomers. Monomers. And these monomers includes amino acids, carbohydrate, fatty acid and glycerol, and nucleotide. That is the monomers. And the monomers form what we call supramolecular complexes. And the supramolecular complexes form what we call the supramolecular complexes. Examples of them, we have virus, we have prions, cytoskeletons, ribosomes. So these supramolecular complexes with non-covalent pulses form what we call organelles of the cells. And the organelles of the cells will form what we call the cell itself. And the cells will form tissue, and the tissue to organs. So if you actually want to watch how these molecules integrate to form cells, tissues, and the complete organisms, watch my video on the journey of life. You'll see you will all see how these smaller atoms came together to produce a complete living organism. So life started from carbon, and the carbon is the main element of life. So then the next thing is the application of biochemistry. So what are the applications of biochemistry in pharmacy? Application of biochemistry in pharmacy, because we have so many applications of biochemistry. We have so many. I can say hundreds of them. We have hundreds of them. So, but in this case, we just want to see how biochemistry will be important in understanding the role of the biochemistry in drug processes in pharmacy. So now, what is biochemistry? Biochemistry has significant importance in pharmacy. Number one, drug constitution. So biochemist helps in the constitution of new drugs. It also helps to improve the efficacy of drugs and minimize its side effects. So the knowledge of biochemistry can be able to understand constitutions of new drugs and how you are also going to improve the efficacy of the drugs and also to minimize the side effect of the drug. So the knowledge of biochemistry, you will contribute in that. And then second, the half-life. So the half-life of the drugs is the time it takes for the drug's active substances in your body to reduce by half. So biochemistry helps to determine the half-life of a drug. So yeah, whenever you take a drug, or each and every drug have its own half-life. And what is half-life? The half-life is a time taken for a particular substances to reduce by its half. So in this case, we are talking about drugs. So biochemists can help you to understand the half-life of the drugs. And then the chances of degradation of drugs. So biochemists help to determine the stability of a drug by calculating the chances of its degradation with changes in atmospheric conditions like temperature, humidity, and also expiry date determination. Biochemical test. Biochemical tests help to determine the expiry date of drugs. And we have so many biochemical tests. So we have some biochemical tests that you can run and see when you expect your drugs to expire. And then drug dosage. The storage conditions required for a drug can be determined by biochemical tests. For example, if enzymes and hormones are not stored properly, protein they get deteriorated due to the unfavorable temperature or oxidation, and we call that denaturation. We call that denaturation. So that would give us an idea because some of the drugs are proteins. So using biochemical tests, you will have an idea of when, where, and the conditions that can cause your drugs to deteriorate. And then drugs metabolism. So biochemists can actually give you an idea of how drugs metabolism may be metabolized and utilized by many biochemical reactions in the presence of enzymes, and this helps to avoid drugs that have a poor metabolism. So we have drugs metabolism, and of course we know that drugs is usually metabolized in the liver and specifically in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum of a cell. Okay, so now it detects nutritional deficiencies. So the deficiency of biomolecules such as proteins, lipid, vitamins, minerals, and water might cause diseases. And biochemical research has a role in preventive medicine by helping identifying storage deficiencies and disease understanding. Health depends on a proper balance of biochemical reactions occurring within the system. And if there is any abnormalities in biochemical reactions, it results in diseases. So biochemistry helps to understand the diseases of protein, energy malnutrition, inborn errors in the metabolism of carbohydrate, proteins, lipids. Diagnostic biochemical tests help to understand the disease and the necessary treatments. So these are the biomolecules of life. So we have biomolecules of life. That is the major biomolecules that are found in living organisms. And these major biomolecules include carbohydrates. We have carbohydrates, we have proteins, we have nucleic acid, and we have lipids. So let's look at this one after the other and see how they are. So this is carbohydrate. So what is carbohydrate? Carbohydrate is defined as a fully hydroxyaldehyde or ketones. It's defined as a fully hydroxyaldehyde or ketones, or any compound that produces such on hydrolysis. So generally, carbohydrates must have a functional group of either aldehydes or ketones. So they are the compound that have a functional group of aldehydes and ketones. And so also at the same time, they must have polyhydroxy, that is OH group, they have polyhydroxy. So such compounds are called carbohydrates. So whenever you see a compound with aldehyde group or ketone group with so many OH group, that describe the compound as carbohydrates. And this carbohydrate is divided into two. We have simple carbohydrate and we have complex. So the simple carbohydrate, we have monosaccharides and disaccharides. And then for the complex one, we have oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. So polysaccharides is usually between 3 to 12 simple sugars. And of course, even the polysaccharide, it's divided into two. We have homopolysaccharide, that is the one that have the same repeating units, and we have heteropolysaccharide, that is those that have different repeating units. Like for example of homopolysaccharides, we have glycogen, and the glycogen have the same repeating units as glucose. So then the next thing is protein. So protein is a polymer. Protein is a polymer of amino acids. So amino acids like this, if you look at this is an individual amino acid that joins together to produce the primary structure of this primary structure of protein. So just with a sequence of the amino acids by forming peptide bond will get a primary structure of protein. And then the primary structure of protein can undergo some structural rearrangement with some non-covalent bonding within themselves to produce what you call the secondary structure. Example of the secondary structure of proteins, we have beta plated sheet and alpha helix. So this is an alpha helix, and it is the secondary structure of protein. And then the secondary structure will now further rearrange itself to produce a tertiary structure. And of course, it forms what you call polypeptides. And this tertiary structure is also due to further bonding with some amino acid sequence using non-covalent pulses. And of course, you will have a multiple polypeptides join themselves to produce what you call quaternary structure of the proteins. So protein is actually synthesized and generated from the DNA, a specific genes, and the proteins is what determine the functions of a particular cell. And of course, most of the proteins functions due to their tertiary and quaternary structure. And whenever the primary and the quaternary structure of the proteins is being destroyed or is being denatured, because when we said the losing of the 3D structure of the proteins is called denaturation. So once protein is denatured, it means that there will be no function. So this is just a brief actually introductions to the protein. Then the next one is the nucleic acid, and of course nucleic acid are made up of nucleotides. Nucleic acid are two classes. We have DNA and RNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid and RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. And this DNA is made up of nucleotide bases. It's made up of nucleotides. And the nucleotide is made up of three components. The nucleotides are made up of three components. It's made up of nitrogenous bases, and this nitrogenous bases we have adenine, we have thymine, we have guanine, and we have cytosine. So these are the nitrogenous bases. So nucleic acid, they are made up of nitrogenous bases, sugar. So and the sugar that is found in the DNA is deoxyribose, and of course the RNA also have their own sugar, which is ribose. And then there is also a phosphate. So there are three major components of nucleic acid: nitrogenous bases, sugar, and phosphates. And there is a differences between DNA and RNA. Of course, if you can see clearly here, the DNA is double-stranded and RNA is single-stranded. Another difference is that the nitrogenous bases in DNA, they are thymine, but in the RNA, the thymine is replaced with uracil. And then the sugar in RNA is ribose, while in the DNA is deoxyribose. So this is just some basic concept on or regarding the nucleic acid. So then the next thing is lipids. So lipid is made up of fatty acid and glycerol. It has so many biological importance, and we also have simple and complex lipids. Some lipids are hydrophobic completely. When you said hydrophobic, it means that they doesn't interact with water. While some lipids are amphipathic. So when you said they are amphipathic, it means that they are made up of both polar head, which is hydrophilic head, and hydrophobic tail. So like in this case, this is actually a typical example of a lipid, which is amphiphilic because it made up of both hydrophobic tail and hydrophilic tail. So in the hydrophilic tail, there are polar group that make it to be interact with water molecule. Of course, the lipids within the fatty acids within the lipids, they are here, as we can see clearly, they are saturated and unsaturated. They are saturated and unsaturated. But as I said, lipid is made up of fatty acid and glycerol. But it's not applied in all lipids. It's not applied in all lipids. So this is the hydrophobic tail and this is the hydrophilic head. And as I said, the fatty acids, some of them are unsaturated, some are saturated. When we say saturated, it means that it doesn't have any double bond that is saturated. But for the case, in the case of unsaturated, they have at least one double bond. So that is for the lipids. And then the next thing is the cell, and it is a chemical organization. So cell, of course, the cell is defined as the basic living and the structural functional unit of an organism, which is capable of carrying out the processes of life independently. So cells are the basic building blocks of life. So life is actually as a result of cell. The structural and the functions of life is cell. So cell is the structural and the functional unit of life. If there is a problem with a cell, then there will be an entire problem with the tissue. And if there is a problem with the tissue, the organ will also have problem, and then the system will have problem. And if care is not taken, it will lead to death. So cell is important, and cell on its own can grow, it can reproduce, it can use energy, it can adapt, respond to the environment. Cells cannot be seen with naked eyes. We need to work with the microscope. And then the concept of cells originated from a contribution of Schleiden and Schwann. They are the one that proposed the cellular theory. And one of the cellular theories, they said that there is no life without the life of cell. So if cell is not alive, then there will be no life. However, it was only after 1940 that the complexities of cells were exposed. Yeah. But since 1838 and 1839, Schleiden and Schwann were able to come off and formulate the cellular theory. And these cells can be divided into two. We have prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cells include bacteria, and it lacks a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So prokaryotic cell, no mitochondria, no nucleus, and other membrane-bound organelles. And of course, we have eukaryotics, and they have nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. And examples of them, we have plant, fungi, animals, protozoans, some protozoans. Yeah. So that is this. And then Let's now look at the different functions of this subcellular components. So number one, so we are going to look at like for example, we are now going to look at the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So types of cell, it is always unicellular. So in most of the prokaryotic cells, they have only one cell. And then in eukaryotic cells, some are unicellular and most of them are multicellular. And then the cell size, that is the size of the prokaryotic cell, is between 2.0 micrometer to 2.0 micrometer in diameter. And the range of eukaryotic cells is between 10 microliter to 100 microliter in diameter. The nucleus is absent in prokaryotic, and then it is present in eukaryote. Ribosomes is present, smaller in size and spherical in shape, but present large in size and linear in shape. DNA arrangement. The arrangement of DNA in prokaryotic cell is circular, while in eukaryotics is linear. Mitochondria is absent in prokaryotics and mitochondria is present in eukaryotes. Cytoplasm is present, but cell organelles absent. So by cytoplasm in the prokaryotic cell, but there is no cellular organelles. Yes, but in this absence, but cell organelles are present. Then we have endoplasmic reticulum. It is absent in prokaryotes, and then it is present in eukaryotes. And then ribosomes is smaller and larger in eukaryotes. Reproductions, prokaryotic cells are asexual, and of course eukaryotic cells can undergo both asexual and sexual reproduction. And examples, we have bacteria, then eukaryote we have plant and animal cell. But really speaking, I think here is a mistake. Cytoplasm is also present in eukaryotic cell, but with presence of cellular organelles. Cellular organelles are present, and this one they have cytoplasm, but there is absence of cellular organelles. So this is actually some basic differences between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So the next thing is actually the structure of the prokaryotic organisms. So a prokaryotic cell does not have a nucleus and membrane organelles. However, the genetic material is present in a region in the cytoplasm, and it is also known as nucleoids. And they have a spherical, rod shape, or spiral. So they have different shapes. So many bacteria have their own types or have their own specific shapes. And the prokaryotic cells are divided into two domains. They occupy two domains of live bacteria and archaea. So now let's look at some functions of the organelles in the cell. And I think let's look at the functions of the cells in the next video. Thank you for listening, and if this is the first time you are coming to my YouTube channel, please subscribe.